What, at
14,
right intervals?
15. Alex, you give us a count just to make sure.
18, 19, 20, 21.
Yeah, we're
20.
good. I think we're good.
Okay.
Oh, that's good to me.
Okay, now give me 10 seconds of silence from 29. Okay, so good. Cool. So yeah, Alex, we can. So yeah, Alex will do the intro, Mark, and then we'll dive straight into your overview of your opinion, and then the order is going to be. What did we say it was going to be? Alex, Carl, me. Yeah,
that's right.
Yep, and yes, and that's the whole story really. I don't think we're missing anything out.
You have to say hi when I say your name.
Oh yeah.
That's about it, really.
Well,
I mean,
forget that as well. Yeah.
Well, you could stay completely silent.
You could grumble or something. Just a noise of acknowledgement would be cool.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, Alex. Whenever you want to go, you go.
Okay, I'll go. Hello and welcome to another episode of Armchair Opinions. Armchair Opinions is a blog where qualified philosophers answer questions asked by non-philosophers. Here on the podcast, we take a closer look at some of those answers. My name is Alex Impey. I am joined by Armchair Philosophers Carl Messenger.
Hello.
James Brown.
Howdy.
And our guest today, Mark Rainey.
Hello.
Mark first became interested in philosophy after pinching his brother's copy of Descartes' Meditations and later earned a master's degree in knowledge and mind from the University of Stirling. Under the microscope today is Mark's opinion about why we enjoy watching scary movies, written in response to a question from Alan Getliff. Thank you, Alan. So, Mark, talk us through your opinion.
All right, well, thanks for having me. I love this question, by the way. It's a great question, which I've thought about before. I've actually written about it before as well. The main problem seems to be that people think being scared or being terrified is a bad thing, so you should avoid it. And yet, we watch scary movies. So why on earth would people enjoy watching something that is unenjoyable? It sounds like a paradox if you put it that way.
Yeah.
But I have kind of a three-pronged answer to that. The first of which is just that being scared isn't a bad thing. I don't think you can rate emotions as positive and negative. They're just a feeling that comes and goes. You don't control it. You can't judge it. And that doesn't mean that you want to be scared all the time. Nobody wants to be petrified out of their wits 24/7. But once in a while, you can tolerate being scared. I think you can even enjoy it. Also, negative emotion, or so-called negative emotions, can even be useful. Like if your house is on fire, it's fear that makes you jump out of bed and run outside. Fear will save your life. That's a good thing. Now, what makes scary movies in particular enjoyable? The second part of my answer is about being a well-made movie. If a movie's going to scare me at all, or elicit any kind of emotional response, whether it's laughter or tears or joy, it has to be well-made. And that means it's a good piece of art, which has been created by an artist to entertain the audience. So if I watch something that's full of dread and makes me feel anxious and actually scares me, even though I know it's not real, it's just a movie, I think that's a really well-made film, and I respect the artist who made it, and I admire the art they've created. So I think there's that kind of level of meta enjoyment where you see the film as a whole and not just the story within the film. That's about movies in particular. And then, because the question was about why we enjoy watching scary movies, the thing about horror in particular, even more than just being well-made, is that often the monster or demon or ghost, whatever it is in the film, represents something bigger. So you can use zombies as a metaphor for death, because every human fears their own mortality. We're all going to die one day. And in a film like Night of the Living Dead, for instance, you literally see death rise up from the ground and chase these people around the house. And it shows the onslaught of death coming for you, and it won't stop. Even if it's a bit slow and shambolic sometimes, it will not stop until it gets you, and you will die. But the reason I enjoy watching movies like that, and I think a lot of people do, is if you listen to a lecture about your own mortality, that's not going to be fun. You don't just want to hear someone saying, you're going to die, I'm going to die, we're all going to die. Nobody wants to hear that, right? But when you watch a movie where a zombie represents death, Or you can have other films like The Babadook, where there's a kind of a haunted house story, but the ghost represents bigger ideas about grief and guilt and shame even. If you wrap those up in a story and tell it to the audience, then they find it more palatable. And it's easier to think about the issue when it's presented to you in a more palatable way. So you can actually learn something new from it. You might think about something differently than you did before. And you might even feel something you haven't felt before. So if you take all three of those together, the negative emotions, like being scared, just aren't bad. A really well-made movie deserves your respect and admiration. And presenting these unpalatable ideas in a palatable way is an important way for people to deal with bigger issues.
Like that.
And that's about it.
That's why we enjoy scary movies.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, fantastic. That's
Very
cool.
good.
That was a good overview.
I feel very calm.
Yeah, there's something about
Very
Mark's
calmly,
voice.
you were like, yeah,
I feel so.
You're being told you're gonna die. I'm gonna die. We're gonna die. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, yeah, we're all gonna die. It's really
Just enjoy it,
hard. And then there's like the chainsaw in the background behind you. And I was like,
Like if I came across your voice on like a guided meditation video, I would
Yeah.
not think it was out of
The
place.
zombies are
True.
coming.
yeah, it was actually like death's coming out of the ground and maybe
Time to
it'll be
die,
slow,
guys.
but-
Come on.
Yeah.
Everybody duck and cover. It'll be awesome. I've heard that people find the Northern Irish accent very soothing. Like they hire a lot of people over here in call centres to deal with Sky broadband issues. Because when you phone up and you hear someone, I actually work in a Sky broadband call centre, like,
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
but when they hear my accent saying, "Oh yeah, I'm very sorry, your line's down. We'll see what we can do," people tend
they-
to relax and go,
but-
"Oh okay, thanks very much."
I'm apologising to you for wasting your
Yeah.
time.
I'm so sorry my internet's not doing very well.
Sorry to bother you, but I haven't been able to get online for 4 days, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's fine."
Are we doing a bit then, Alex? I thought you were Is your internet okay? I thought you were talking.
Oh, do you know what? Yeah, I'm
I thought you were being real. I thought you were being real. That was really good. I thought you
was
actually
good
had
acting.
had a grievance about your
thank
internet.
you.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, not yet, but I'm sure it'll come later, and then I'll.
All right, cool. So, Alex, your question's up first, right?
Yes, my question is first. My question is. Oh dear. Okay, so my question is, why do some people find certain horror movies more or less horrifying than others? As in, for one person, like Midsummer could be the scariest film they've ever seen, and for another, it's not, basically.
That's a good question. I'm sure a lot of filmmakers would like to know that, because then they can make one that terrifies everybody equally. But a lot of it comes down to just subjectivity. Same as comedy or music. I mean, a lot of people enjoy different kind of things. With horror, there could even be some kind of childhood trauma that somebody's been through. And if you see a film that recreates something that you're familiar with, like say I've been traumatized by having spiders shoved up my nose when I was a kid, but you might have pet tarantulas and you think they're cute and adorable. So if we sit down to watch a spider monster movie together, you'll be looking at it and going, "Oh, isn't that cute?" But I would be thinking, "Oh my god, this is the end of the world."
Okay.
It was interesting.
And also,
'cause-
like,
sorry,
sorry, go ahead.
it was interesting because my wife said, I said, "Oh, we're talking about horror films with Mark," and she said, "Oh, like Silence of the Lambs." I was like, "No, like scary horror films." She's like, "That's the scariest film I could ever imagine watching." And
This is quite scary, yeah.
But I often put it on, and like if it's on TV, I'll watch that. I'll be like, "Oh, brilliant! I love this movie." And my wife will like leave the room, and I've never really twigged that she's just like literally horrified by it. But I've never found it that. So you see very little gore, and there's menace, but I always thought of it more of a police thriller or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, she views
mean,
that
she
as a
wasn't-
horror film.
She wasn't kidnapped at all as a child or anything.
No. Not that I'm
She was
aware
eaten
of.
by a cannibal. Was she?
No,
Yeah, no,
but I think maybe I don't know if it's something about just that fear of what. There's nothing supernatural about it. It's just humans being vicious to each other or being deranged in some way. I think that's probably quite scary to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a very scary idea.
Yeah.
And the way Anthony Hopkins plays that character, he's a very intelligent, educated man, and he's very civilized and polite and mannered.
Right, that's right. Yeah, he's not a monster.
But he also tears people to pieces and eats them.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
that's
He's
a
not.
kind of frightening dichotomy.
Yeah, he's not a zombie or anything. He's he's a doctor of psychiatry or whatever.
In fact, I googled most iconic horror villains earlier on, and he came top of the list of several lists.
Oh, is that
Hannibal
right?
Lecter. Yeah.
Oh,
People
well,
seem to.
I'm wrong about horror films then.
Well, because I was also that surprised me because I was also under the impression that horror entailed gore.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just today I've watched
Thrillers.
Nightmare on Elm Street, and that in my mind was kind of a quintessential horror film because of all the gore.
Original was that
the original, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, Ella loaded up the remake, and so we had to quickly scramble and find the original on Amazon. But it was the original, and but yeah. So I don't know. So something you said a moment ago, Mark, about perhaps whether someone's had a particularly negative experience in their childhood, and maybe that determines which films they find more horrible. Do you think then that movie makers are almost exploiting something they shouldn't be exploiting? In this case, like if you make a whoever directed Eight-Legged Freaks or something like that, are they kind of hoping that as many people as possible have had traumatic childhood experiences involving spiders?
I don't know if that's that. Like, you make it sound like the director would be some kind of sinister individual trying to exploit people. I don't know if it's that evil, but it is kind of. I mean, a fear of spiders isn't really that bad, compared to all the horrible things that could happen to you in your life. Yeah. Just being scared of a spider isn't that bad. So making a ridiculous monster movie about killer spiders is kind of fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it's always hard to know what different people would react to in different ways. So unless you target it at one specific individual and you make a film to terrify that one person and exploit them, that could be a bad thing.
Right, that would be sinister.
Yeah.
Like
So
name
it's
the main character after them.
So do you think making a universally scary horror film would be about finding an event, maybe say it's a kidnapping or something like that, which would be universally terrifying for anyone if they were involved in it? Do you think that's part of the equation?
Yeah, I think that's what some of the best horror movies have in common. They have to touch something deeper.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was getting at with the whole metaphor idea, like monsters as metaphors.
Yeah,
it's not just about a ghost in the house, but it's the fear of grief and shame and guilt that touch everybody. That's the basic human emotions. Everybody's felt those at one time or another.
Yeah,
some more than others, some more recently than others, some more often than others. But they're still kind of universal emotions. And if a film can tap into that, then you've got something universal.
To a winner. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's properly terrifying. Not just blood and guts everywhere. It has to get into your mind.
And then I was very interested in your opinion when you said that sometimes the best horror films, you're not entirely sure why they affected you in such a way. You can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of know where. Well, I don't really know where I was going with that. But the idea. So what you were saying before suggested that that we kind of. So hang on, Carl. So you're. No, okay. I've completely lost this train of thought. I apologise. It's so hot in this room. No, I was going to. It just seemed to me that the discussion suggested that when we are very afraid of a film, we know why. Yet the fact that you said that sometimes we can be afraid and not know why, that almost suggests that the director knows something about us that we don't, and that's quite scary in itself.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the well-made horrors. That's why I always make that distinction. It's a proper well-made psychological horror. Can get into your mind and touch you in ways that you don't realise. But if you think about it afterwards, like the great example of that is Ju-on, the Japanese one. It's been remade in America. Even the original film was a remake of a sequel of a remake of a reboot. There's so many Ju-ons everywhere. But only after I'd watched it a dozen times, and it scares me every single time, I realised that some of the places people go to when they're trying to escape this evil spirit that's hunting them down, one of them gets killed in a police station, one of them gets killed in a hospital, one gets killed in their own bed, hiding under the covers. One can only see the ghost when she covers her eyes. It appears in the periphery. And it's only after watching it a whole lot of times I realised those are all the places that you should be safest.
Yeah.
You should be able to get help from the police. You should be able to go to the hospital, get a doctor.
Yeah.
You can hide in your own bed. And that film systematically strips away all of your safety blankets.
Yeah.
But not in such an obvious way that they say, hey, look at this. It's only afterwards I realised that's the theme through the whole thing. It's the sheer inevitability of it. And that's terrifying.
I think that is something that the horror film that maybe gets, the ones that really get you, that actually horrify, that actually scare you, are ones that don't necessarily have a monster, right? They don't I was thinking, you know, the original like TV movie of It, the Stephen King's It. I remember watching that when I was maybe too young, and being absolutely terrified all the way through because there was this demon that could be anything, could be anyone, right? Just happens to look like a clown most of the time. And it's got like, is it Tim Curry playing the clown?
That's right.
It's great, right? And then in the end, it turns out it's a giant spider. And I was just totally not scared anymore because I'm personally not scared of spiders. But it just seemed like, but thinking back, it's like, well, it's still that demon that could be anywhere, could be anyone, could turn into your mum and attack you or something. But because it was a giant spider, it seemed to lose that sense of that sort of formless horror. Do you know what I mean? That I just felt this sort of this. The fact that it didn't have a form, I felt was so much more intensely scary. And as soon as it's a giant spider, I'm like, it's an alien movie. I'm not interested anymore. Or at least I wasn't scared.
It's an alien.
Yeah.
The fact that it's an alien spider as well. It's not a ghost or a spirit anymore. It's just a creature that looks like a spider.
That's right. It's no longer supernatural in any way. So you're like,
that's not properly terrifying.
No,
it's just a monster movie.
Yeah, it's different. Whereas you're right. If it's getting to you in the way that it's attacking your safe spaces, or it's it's attacking your sort of sense of safety in some way, it just becomes that much more terrifying, doesn't it?
And was it? I mean, was the shapeless Pennywise so terrifying? Do you think because it could have been whatever you wanted it to be? So whatever it was, perhaps. I mean, I'm now thinking of that creature in the Harry Potter films. Is it a Bogart?
A boggart.
A boggart? Yeah, something like that.
Well,
anyway.
familiar.
Okay. Well, this particular creature is so terrifying in those films because it takes on whatever shape you're most terrified of. So I didn't know whether perhaps that was why Pennywise was so scary up until he took a concrete form. Because, I mean, for you, he could have been whatever you were most frightened of, whatever that may be.
Well, it's probably a demonic clown, if we're honest.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but no, I think that's what it was about for me. But as soon as the spider turned up, it's gone. That's it.
Okay. What was the film you mentioned, Alex, in your question?
Midsommar.
Did you mention that because that's one you find particularly scary?
I don't find it scary at all.
I've never even heard of it. I don't know.
I thought it was amazing.
I think it's good. I just don't think it's scary. I think it's because I watched it with my mate Liv. She absolutely loves that film, and we watched it all together as a flat. And I don't know if it was just because it felt like such a an easy, safe, happy chappy sort of environment. It just it didn't have that tension really. It was just. I don't know what it was. And also because I think the actors I'd seen in other stuff before.
That makes a difference, doesn't it?
It was sort of I'm just looking at, I think his name's Will Poulter. I'm just looking at Will Poulter.
Oh, I love Will Poulter.
Yeah,
he was
cool.
in Bandersnatch, right? The Black Mirror interactive movie on Netflix.
Oh, I haven't seen that one actually.
Okay.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, it depends on the choices you make. Sometimes it's rubbish. It's interactive.
And then it's my fault if it's rubbish.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I didn't.
Midsommar, is that? Am I thinking right? It's something like a Wicker Man type. It's like in a strange community. It's a remote community.
Yeah, it's
is
a
that
Nordic community. I think is it set in Sweden? I think.
Yeah, it's Swedish.
Yeah, Swedish, and they go there because one of their mates, I think he's on not a placement year, but he's an exchange student from Sweden at their uni, and they all go there as a trip.
Sounds lovely.
And it sounds lovely. They get high. The CGI is really cool because there's they do really subtle it's it just flows into one another kind of thing. So you can tell when they're off their heads and stuff like that. And it is very it's very unnerving because some weird stuff happens in it. But it was just, I don't know what it was. It just didn't get under my skin.
So were you in a room where some people were terrified and you were just sat there thinking this is a lovely camping holiday?
I didn't think it was a nice holiday. I was just
carry on camping.
Yeah, we're at Centre Parks having a great time. No, it was I don't know. I think it just didn't feel, there was just no atmosphere when we were watching it. But I watched it again later with my boyfriend in the dark. in his kitchen. And it again wasn't, I don't know if it's because I'd already watched it and hadn't been scared. It wasn't scary again. It was just sort of like...
That's part of the answer to your question about why people find some things more horrifying than others. I think the environment you watch it in does matter. If you're watching it in a flat with friends, you might be chatting to each other. Because actually, speaking of that Ju-on film that terrified me so much, I showed it to some of my friends and said, this is the scariest film I've ever seen. Where do you see this? I went round to someone's flat and put it on. And they all kept talking about their holiday plans and saying, does somebody want a drink? Should we get a Chinese later? And I kept saying, would you be quiet? Something's about to happen. And then they would all watch for the next 2 minutes and then go, oh, that was crap. So anyway, and carry on talking. And they all said it was crap. But I guarantee you it's not. As I said to them, you didn't watch the film. You have no right to criticise it if you didn't watch it.
Watch it properly.
But also, when I saw Midsommar, I saw it in the cinema by myself. I think I went early some Saturday morning. And there were only 2 other people in the room. So I had basically the entire cinema to myself and the massive screen and the sound. And I was just transfixed at the screen for the whole 2 hours, whatever it is. And I thought it was amazing.
It's really...
So maybe that's... So we've kind of got 2 answers to the question now. One is about whether you experienced any childhood trauma or perhaps more generally any negative experiences in your life. And then the other one's atmosphere. That would probably account for quite a bit of a difference in taste, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's where and how you watch it. Even watching something on your phone on the tube, it's never going to be scary.
Never understand why people do that.
No.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Don't do that.
No. I watched, I mentioned this the other day, I watched Pet Sematary, which is just, I mean, I found it a very scary film, but I think I found it especially scary because I was watching it on a plane, and I don't particularly enjoy flying. I find that scary anyway. So I could have been watching the most easygoing film ever. But I was already scared, and that made it such a horrific experience. I haven't been so close as an adult to turning off a film as I was on that occasion. I just couldn't hack it. I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I don't know why I did it to myself. It was a long haul flight. I would say you were in the right frame of mind. You should be terrified. Maybe. Yeah. But so maybe that's it. Maybe atmosphere accounts for a lot of differences in taste. And maybe that and maybe Alex. So you said that you watched that film a second time in a scarier atmosphere when it was dark and stuff. But by that point, it was too late. Maybe that was shutting the door after the horse had bolted. You know, maybe you'll never find that film scary now. No, regardless of the atmosphere.
There's like a subreddit called like r/movie details or something, and sometimes a post about Midsommar will crop up on that subreddit, and it will be like, oh, that's crazy. Like there's a scene where, is her name Danny? Is that her name? In the main character, Florence Pugh's character, I love her. Spoilers. She wins something, and they're like carrying her. And then in the background, there's this shape of a face like forms out of the leaves. And then there's another scene where I think there was like she's in the bathroom or something, like she's like high off her tits on shrooms or something like that. And her sister, is like in the mirror, and that was like. That was really scary, and like just like looking at details and being like, oh, that's really interesting. Like the details, sometimes reading about the film is I don't know, scarier because I guess you're filling in the details yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought you mentioned some. What did you say, Jimmy?
Sorry, Alex. I was going to say I thought you mentioned something interesting before as well about how if you're watching the film looking for plot holes, then that might completely destroy the experience.
So I was watching, is it A Quiet Place or The Quiet Place?
Yeah.
A Quiet Place.
Yeah. And I was watching that in my house at uni on my own at night, and I was very tired, and I was watching it, and I was very much scared. And then I told my boyfriend I was watching it, and he was like, oh, I watched this review of it, something. He sent me the review, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll give it a watch. And it basically pointed out like every single like major plot hole in this film.
Or like cinema sins or whatever. Like,
it was like,
everything wrong with A Quiet Place in 10 minutes or less.
It was like either by either Mark Commode or the guy on YouTube
hate
called
that
Your
guy.
Movie Sucks.
Oh, I love that guy.
But this, it was like, I think it was Your Movie Sucks, maybe, and he was just pointing out that like, they have a soundproof basement, but they don't live in it.
They
Like,
don't live in it, no, that's an
why
issue.
don't you just
Yeah,
live in the
yeah,
soundproof
yeah.
basement? And they don't wear shoes. They make paths everywhere with very soft materials. And he was like, why don't they just make shoes that have soft material on the bottom of them? And I was like, oh, why don't they do that? And then
Yeah,
they
they
were
could
having
make
a
their shoes out of
baby.
t-shirts.
Yeah, and they were having a baby. I was like, why are you having a baby? But then Carl pointed out that
Yeah.
the couple
Yeah.
is made of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, so
Good-looking
some things
people got to
can't be
do it.
helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just watched it after that, and I was so frustrated that they weren't in the basement. I just kept saying in my head, like, just go in the basement. Please just go in the basement. And there was like a fire at some point. I was like, why do you have candles around
Yeah,
flammable?
but then when she went in the basement, things didn't improve for her. Like,
well, they weren't, she
no one
was
should ever go in a basement, right? I mean, like, if any of these movies teaches anything, don't go in the basement.
Have you learned
that's
nothing?
true, that's true. But
So
yeah.
do you think that ruined it, Alex, because it kind of burst the illusion a little bit? So I mean, you couldn't get swept up in the storyline or the atmosphere
Yeah, it
because
wasn't
you were just
believable
constantly
anymore.
picking holes in it.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
wasn't believable for them to spend so much time, like, and so much effort not making noise when they could have just
Done it
really,
easy.
yeah.
Well, so I guess
amazing.
this goes back to what Mark was saying about good directorship. It's in
Totally
Yeah.
backs up that second point, doesn't it?
yeah.
It has to be a
director
well-made
has to-
movie, like well-written, well-directed, well-staged, even sound
Yeah.
production, cinematography and all that.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be stupid plot points like that distracting you. Even if the plot was stupid, they should be able to disguise it some way, get around it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like The Lighthouse. Have you guys seen The Lighthouse?
No.
No, not yet.
No.
It's on my
Jimmy,
list.
You've seen it, right?
No, I haven't, but
Oh,
it's also
okay.
on my list.
That's
but
a really that I found that film
a good
terrifying.
one.
I know some people
Okay.
didn't at all, but there's scenes in that where it's like I was like crying out of just like fear and just like
This sounds great.
yeah. I don't know
horrible.
I don't know if it would be good. I don't know if you guys will find it good because I watched it in the student cinema and they had the surround sound and there's the what's it called? There's like not the soundtrack, the score for the the soundtrack. There's the score for the film. There's this lighthouse, like it's like like that. The whole film, it's like so booming and loud. It gets really under your skin, and it was so scary. It was so scary. I was like hiding behind Angus's.
So
van.
you found that one really scary, and you think that the score may have accounted for at least part
but
of that.
I think that's
Kept you
that's
on
an
edge.
amazing film. Like that scared me, and I hate horror films because I'm a little bit of a puss. Yeah, but a bit of a puss. But
Yeah.
that film was amazing. I came away. I was terrified out of my mind. I had to get an Uber home, and there was this like ticking sound in the Uber, and it was like tick 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 tick. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? It was like 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. I got home and I called my mum. I was like, Mum, no one in the house is awake, and I've just seen this really scary film. And she was like, okay. And then I was like, I have to watch that again. I just have to.
So you enjoyed it? I mean, yeah.
It was good. I think it was what you were saying, Mark, where you just know that it was so well done. Like everything about it was amazing. Like the acting, even like the aspect ratio added to the experience. Like just everything about it was so good. And I think knowing now where the jump scares are, where like what not to be afraid of, what to be afraid of kind of thing, I think will make it like even more enjoyable. So yeah, please watch The Lighthouse.
I thought, Mark, you also mentioned about like the difference between watching a scary film on your own and watching a film in company. Do you think that makes a big difference? I mean, so say for example, you're in company who's going to take the experience seriously. They're not just going to talk about their holidays over the top. Do you think that would enhance the experience?
To be honest, in my experience, I don't give a shit about the company. If I'm with people who are going to take it seriously, then none of us are going to talk to each other or even acknowledge each other during the film anyway.
Okay. So
But
even
it's
though
just
you're
the moment when the credits roll and you step outside, then you can talk about it and say, "Wasn't that amazing?" And we'll all share our experience. But I could equally watch it on my own, and they could watch it on their own. and still meet
Talk about
afterwards.
it afterwards.
Yeah. The worst thing is just if you're with people who don't take it seriously.
Yeah, that's the worst. Yeah.
I've actually had an experience where there was a film on, and I was in company, and we weren't meant to be watching the film. Like someone just, stick that on, like get the news off and just stick that on. And then we were meant to be talking, but it was one of the Saw movies. I think it was the first Saw movie, and we had just been babysitting for our friends, and they'd like come back from their night out, so we were just having a drink and a chat, and we were getting ready to go. But they're stick that on, yeah, that's all right. And it was so distracting. Like I had to ask them. So I'm not the sort of guy who would watch one of the Saw movies. It's not something I would ever choose to watch. Really? But I just couldn't. We were just meant to be chatting about holiday plans, right? And there's this horror in the room, and I couldn't stop watching it. And I was like, "You've got to switch this off. I'm going to throw up." It was so horrifying. It was like the reverse of what you were saying, Mark. That you could just like, look, can we take it seriously? I was like, can we stop taking this seriously, please? Can someone mention Corfu?
Can we talk about?
Why were you watching it so intently then?
I couldn't stop. This was the problem. That it was.
That means it's a great film. You should enjoy that.
No, because I was like trying to turn away from it, but it was still there. Do you know what I mean? It was always going to be there, so I had to have it switched off, and I felt like a bit of a as you say, a puss afterwards. I felt like I was some sort of the child in the room, but I still stand by that. That I was like, no, that was visceral. I was like, I couldn't see it. Wow. I couldn't in fact, even I have this one film that because I think I keep it kind of quiet that I don't like horror films because it's not cool to be like, no, I don't like being scared. Yeah. And like my best friend once bought me Wreck on, I think is it a Spanish film, Wreck?
Yeah.
On DVD. Oh, this is great, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh right, and I realised that like I'm as close to this guy as anyone in the world. And I've never mentioned that I don't really like scary films, So, oh God. So then I watched it. I was completely horrified by it, and now it still bothers me if I think about it that it's upstairs in the attic in a box. Like its existence bothers me. Like if I think about it, I get scared of the fact it's like an artifact in my attic.
Like Jumanji in your attic.
Like Jumanji, it's still scaring me now. Like it's scaring me like 10 years later. And yeah, and I don't know if I wish I'd just never seen it because it's so there. It's in my head and I can't get rid of it. And
what do you think did it for you? What was it about that film? Could you put your finger on it?
I don't know. It's one of these that has like there's like it's ominous. There's inevitability about the coming evil. There's an unknowing. The evil's like in some way unknown. So it's just one of those. Like Mark was saying, it's one of these that it gets to something deeper than it's a giant spider. It's not a giant spider. Yeah. It's it's something otherworldly. And
I like the claustrophobia of that one as well. It feels like you're trapped in the film. It's a very small space they make it in.
Yeah, that you're all
in the handheld camera
one building. Yeah. It's like
it's very tight and cramped.
Yeah, and I think that's because it's like a found footage film as well, isn't it? So it's like it's that whole genre has that quality, doesn't it? That you're seeing it from a certain point of view, and that makes it more personal and claustrophobic, as you say. And it gets, it got to me, and then as I say, I might have to destroy it.
Yeah, you need to burn it.
I think even then, if I burnt it, it would still bother me because there are still the copies of it, right? It still exists, so it bothers me.
All right, should we draw a line into this segment? Everyone happy to do that?
Can I just quickly ask Mark, what do you think of the Paranormal Activity films? Because I've heard that in the horror and thriller community, they're generally seen as a joke. But I'm just wondering if that's true, one, and two, what you think of them.
Well, I can't speak for the whole community. But I watched the first.
There's like a general.
I remember I watched the first one again by myself in the dark with the curtains drawn and thought it was amazing. It was terrifying. And all the sequels have been dog shit. It's just a cash cow now. The first one is so good. They've just been milking it for as long as they can. Yeah. But the first one I think worked really well. It was really well done.
One of the I think when sci-fi crosses over with horror, it can be really good. One of the scariest films I saw as a child was Signs with Mel Gibson. Remember that one?
Signs.
Yeah. M. Night. What is it? Is it
M. Night Shyamalan?
Yeah. That was terrifying. God. I watched that with a group of other children. We were probably about like 10. I think we were about 10 years old.
Oh, okay. You haven't seen it again since?
Maybe once. I can't.
Because it's not scary.
Okay.
Movie.
Well, we were about 10.
Even Carl says that's not scary.
It was like a birthday party or something, and there was a big group of us all in a dark room. And I remember seeing this one kid called Thomas Lumley, who was kind of a bit of a gentle soul then, anyway.
Yeah.
When you kind of saw the outline of the alien on the roof, and it took you a moment to spot it. Like you kind of got a shot of this roof, and then you kind of spotted it a second later. He spotted it and physically jumped behind the sofa as a response to get away from the screen. I've never seen anything like it. So I mean, they kind of but yeah, that was scary. That one did it for me.
Even I think he's a coward. Yeah.
Bless him. All right, so Carl? I think your question's next, isn't it?
Yeah. Should I just jump straight in?
Yeah, you can jump straight in. Unless anyone needs to take 5.
No, go ahead.
Hold on.
Cool.
I wrote it somewhere. It's on my phone. Hold on. Screen box, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So I want to take issue. Fundamentally take issue with your argument, Mark. Particularly the first part of the argument that you can't. So you said it was so ludicrous. I think I've forgotten it. You said
that you can't put a can't judge emotions.
Yeah, that emotions can't. But you can't think of them as positive or negative. They just are, and I just think that's mental, isn't it? Isn't that completely nuts?
What's your argument? Why is that nuts?
Because just by show of hands, I could go to anyone in the world and say, if you're feeling joy, is that a good or bad emotion? And they'll say that's good. And I say right, and if you're scared, is that good or bad? They'll say bad. Like 100%. No one, no one would say, oh, I think feeling joy is a bad thing. They think it's a good thing, right? I think, I understand what you're saying, that it's not that the joy itself isn't inherently good, and that being scared isn't inherently bad. But I'm just talking about from the experience of the person who's going through those emotions. So let's talk about the experience of being horrified or being scared or something. So the person who is experiencing that is, at least in some way, they're experiencing something and they're suffering, right? They're not. I don't think it's possible to be scared and then that be a positive thing. I think if you're scared, then you might be exhilarated by that, like on a roller coaster. And so maybe that's what's going on here. But it's not the fear. I think fear is always a bad thing. Even with the burning house.
So you're saying
I think the fear is a bad experience. It's a bad experience. It's a good outcome, but it's a bad experience, right? So
is it always for everyone, or is it unenjoyable some of the time for some people?
Now,
I don't think that you can say there's no blanket statement. Like you can't say that fear is always a bad thing. It's not inherently negative at all. I think that sometimes you can't. Or actually, do you think that you can enjoy it at any time? Any small dose of fear could be enjoyable, or are you saying it's just always bad?
No, I don't think. And this might come back to bite me once we've argued this out. But I'm going to say now, no, I don't think there is. There might be secondary emotions or secondary events around the fear that that could be positive. The exhilaration of leaving a burning building, for being an example, or with horror films, whatever it is, the relief when you realise that it's just a film and I needn't have been scared about that bit or whatever it was. Those are good things, but the fear was most definitely bad. And so I think I want to argue, just for philosophical entertainment purposes, obviously, that maybe what's going on in the horror film is not that the fear is neither good nor bad, but the fear is bad. And it's this idea that people don't understand why they're enjoying it. And they think they're enjoying fear, and like you say, and that people think fear's a bad thing, and so therefore they're enjoying a bad thing, and that's weird, and I don't know why I love it. But in actual fact, what they're doing is they're enjoying a good sensation, which is somehow a secondary event that comes from a bad thing, and it's not the fear they're loving. They're loving some other emotion or some other sensation that it's connected in some way to the fear, but isn't the fear itself, which I think is always bad. What would you say to that?
I would say to that, if you're enjoying some kind of secondary joy that comes from the fear, like a roller coaster is a good example of this. People ride roller coasters and you're terrified, but they love it.
Yeah.
If you're saying you get the joy of the rush, the exhilaration, as an add-on to the bad feeling of the fear, then why would you not just do something else that doesn't include the fear? Just do something joyous. People still seek out things that terrify you into a state of joy. Because it is the fear that you want. It's the fearful joy. Or a joyful fear, if you like.
It just seems to be different.
But people don't just sing and dance. I mean, people do that. It makes them happy. But if you wanted to be happy anytime, you could just do that. Or just watch a stand-up show instead of a horror film. Yeah. But people still seek out the joy that comes from fear. And that's because the fear is your conduit into it. And the fear is the thing that you do enjoy. And do you think you don't, but some people do.
Yeah. Well, do you think... Well, roller coasters are interesting because I think I really used to love roller coasters. But I think, like in the last 5 years, they've just seemed to me to be just dangerous. And I've had to, like... last year I went to Legoland, and which is not particularly high octane. That is like a very sort of low level of roller coaster there. You know, it's for younger children. And I was just absolutely terrified the whole time. Like I went on pretty much everything they had, and it just all looked very dangerous to me. I mean, they had one of those swinging ships. You know, the ships that swing backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And I almost had a heart attack. and it's like a scaled down like baby version, and it was still too much for me. So maybe there's something about getting older that I've lost that. But I don't think I ever sought that out with horror films. I think I've always been a bit of a pudding when it came to that kind of thing. But yeah, I would say it's definitely. Because you're right, I could just eat a ham sandwich, right? If I wanted to feel joy, I needn't go on a roller coaster.
That'll make you happy.
I could just eat a ham sandwich, and it's pleasant and it's nice, you know. But but people do something else, don't they? They're going for it's a different thing they're after.
Yeah, they want that fear to bring the joy or the relief that comes after it.
So do you think the joy
even
is
the
different?
adrenaline rush? It could even be an adrenaline rush you get from the fear. You know, your heart beats faster, you get goosebumps, you get a physical reaction.
Yeah, and no ham
joy
sandwich
alone doesn't bring.
Yeah, no ham sandwich is going to give you that.
No,
that adrenaline.
Weird if it did, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that is true then. Maybe there is a type of joy that is only possible when juxtaposed with this fear. And so maybe in that way you have to go through the fear to experience these kind of sensations. I'd go that far, but I would still want to argue that it's not the fear that people are. Because if you enjoy fear, then you are damaged, I think. But if you enjoy these secondary sensations, but these other sensations, I would say, that it's probably the only way to get to these sensations, right? Is to go through that.
I mean, but do you not think there's also something to be said for just trying to experience everything that a human can? I mean, if you try to avoid fear and terror and disgust at all times, you'd be missing out on half of the emotional capacity of your brain.
True.
So do you not just want to feel it because you can see what it's like? And if something terrifies you, then you can think afterwards, well, why did that terrify me? What was scary about it?
Yeah.
You can analyse yourself and find out more about yourself by putting yourself through the fear and terror.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. That's interesting, yeah. Because I think when I was younger, like when I was a kid, I was desperate to watch horror films. Like when I was 10, like trying to watch Nightmare on Elm Street occupied 80% of my time, just trying to work out a way to how we could, persuade, Tony's Corner Shop to let us have the VHS, But now looking back, like, what kind of irresponsible shopkeeper would let a 10-year-old boy watch Nightmare on Elm Street? That just seems insane now. But at the time, I remember watching it thinking, it wasn't really that bad,
Oh, really?
No, I
You
don't.
didn't think it was that bad even at that age? Because it terrified me. I think I was about 8 when I saw it.
I mean, I was scared, but I think the idea was that we thought we'd be damaged by it. Maybe I have been. Maybe this is my roller coaster trauma. But yeah, I thought it would be damaging in some way, and it would change our brains. We'd come out the other end as completely changed because we were doing something illegal. We were doing something illegal to our brains by watching Nightmare on Elm Street, and we watched it, and it was like, oh, it was really scary, but that was all. I didn't feel changed afterwards. So I think that was the disappointment. But maybe this is my whole issue with horror films. Maybe this is my childhood trauma is Nightmare on Elm Street.
But also so unmitigated fear. I think I'm with Carl. It can't be enjoyable if you're in a situation and you think that your life is genuinely in danger. I don't think anyone would come out the other side of it and say, I enjoyed that. It would seem wrong. There has to be some sort of make-believe involved. I mean, we've spoken about roller coasters and scary films. It's kind of, you get maybe like I'd almost say that it's maybe that Carl's right to say that fear is always bad, but in the cases of a horror film, maybe it's only a pseudo fear that you're feeling. So, you don't,
because like zombies aren't real, right? That's what you mean.
Yeah,
you can't be scared of them. Yeah.
You're in no real danger, and that has to be that has to change the. Like, I would have thought that changes the fear. I'd have thought that fear, when you don't believe that the object of your fear is real, has to be different to when you think Freddy Krueger is real and actually coming to get you.
But then, what about the roller coaster? You are high up, you are moving quickly.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs, has got no supernatural elements. There are real psychopaths, cannibals.
Yeah.
And I believe that there are cannibals, and I believe that roller coasters, are high up and potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
So what part would the imagination play in those? It's not the same as a zombie, but the fear and joy aspect seems to be very similar, right?
I think it's the moment after it's over and you're safe. I think that's what it is. I think sometimes it can be so quick that it just registers as just fear that you're feeling, where it's like, if you're, so for example, you said on the roller coaster, it's up high, it's dangerous, potentially you could fall off, but the idea is you're not going to, like, you're not going on a roller coaster to get yeeted like off of it. You're going on it because you'll be able to safely disembark the roller coaster after the whole experience. Because when you're on it and you're falling and you feel your stomach like smashing into your spine, that's really scary because it's like, oh my, I feel like I'm gonna fall, but you don't actually. Yeah. You never like land.
It's a simulation, isn't it?
It's just a simulation. It's like with the scary films as well. Is that I guess maybe there's this back and forth in your brain where it's like, this is really scary. It's like, yeah, but it's not real. It's like, okay, this is really scary. It's like, yeah, but it's still not real. So it's like, or even if it is real, like cannibals and psychopaths, specifically, Hannibal Lecter is not out to get you.
Yeah. Cannibals are real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Hannibal Lecter isn't.
Well, yeah. The likelihood is he's not real.
But Anthony Hopkins is. He might come for you.
Yeah, it's true. He could. Yeah. It's the probability.
Well, this
zero,
is.
But,
I mean, that's. Yeah, that. I mean, that's. So sometimes viewers of films take things a little bit too far. I think in that film in particular, Silence of the Lambs, the actor who played the villain, got like death threats for years after that film. Like people sending him hate mail. Yeah, couldn't get over how I don't know how horrible he was in that film, and wanted to take it out in real life on the actor. Yeah. I mean, that's almost perhaps when these simulated fears spill over into real fears and motivate real action.
But yeah, I think it's like I guess there's an analogy where if fear is a door and it's going into like a really nice room, and I guess then you can say like, oh yeah, it's quite nice. Like fear's all right because you have to go through that door to get to the goods. I don't know if that's a weak analogy. But...
I thought you were going somewhere really special for a second.
You know what, James?
You
continue that analogy. Yeah. I'll just throw out the spaghetti and you make it stick to the wall.
I'm not sure I can.
I don't think that was a good analogy.
It was going somewhere, but
It was going somewhere, but
I mean,
it
I thought it
didn't.
was going somewhere. I thought it was going somewhere.
I opened
know.
the door. There was nothing there.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
There you
It was
go.
like, what was my analogy? You open the door and you go into a room.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That's fair.
Yeah, that's
That may
fair.
be profound.
It
I don't
could
know.
be one day.
Yeah,
We're
sounds
not
like
sure.
something Nietzsche would say or something.
Yeah.
So Carl, so you thought that so you think that emotions can be bad or good, say. So you think the paradox stands in a way. Would you say that that it's still unusual then that people enjoy scary films? Do you think?
No, but all I take issue with is it's a minute, nitpicky, pedant's philosophical point that it's not the actual fear. It cannot be the fear that's being enjoyed. I would argue it might be. I don't want to get into like an argument about the causation. The fear is causing the enjoyment, but it's not enjoyment of the fear. The fear causes the enjoyment through this extra sensation.
Okay.
Because if you're really scared, you wouldn't be enjoying it.
But can you not say, like, if it's necessary for the fear to be there in the first place for you to experience the positive emotion? Like, you can't experience a positive emotion like knowing you're safe from something you're extremely scared of without that object or whatever, you already being afraid of it in the first place. So you have to have that fear. You can't have the positive emotion without the fear. So you can say that that is what you're enjoying because it's part and parcel. It's like if I have I'm not going to make another analogy.
You nearly went for another analogy.
I did. I was like, stop it. Yeah, it was going to be about cake, but
Yeah,
But I just think there's like a difference. Like I'm thinking of, say, if I'm watching a movie, it's like a horror movie, and there's like, a psychopath who comes at someone with a knife, and they're like, oh god, and it was really scary. Like, oh, I love that. But then, if there's a situation where a psychopath comes at me with a knife and stabs me, but I escape. And then afterwards, you're in the hospital, and someone says, "How was it?" Well, it was scary at the time, but you know what? I bloody loved it. Do you know what I mean? No one would ever say that.
I think some people might. I think you're severely underestimating.
Really?
Yeah, there's.
You're speaking for everyone in the planet there, saying nobody would like that.
Yeah, I think
there's at least one person who might.
there's one.
You can't say nobody.
Gotta be
One in
person
7
that's
billion would be like,
that wasn't that
I
bad.
bloody loved being attacked like that. That was great.
Yeah, but you can't say nobody would until you ask them all.
That's true. But
I just meant, does it not seem as not fitting with a?
it's an
like,
error
a
of
general,
reasoning, I'd say.
That they would say they loved it.
Yeah.
Even if you're talking about an actual serial killer coming after you,
Yeah.
that's not the same as watching scary movies. That's not the same.
No.
fear. But if you watch a really scary movie that terrifies you to your core, that you feel sick and everything afterwards,
Yeah.
the next day you might still say to someone, "Jesus, that was amazing."
Yeah. Well, you see, I wouldn't. I'd say, Jesus, that was horrible. But I still, it's the same thing. Yeah.
So you think so? So would you be happy to say, Mark, that there are perhaps different types of fear? So the fear that we experience when a serial killer is really coming after us, and we've lost Alex.
See?
Yeah,
He's had enough.
yeah. So hopefully she'll rejoin us in a moment.
But she said she jinxed it. I don't know why she said that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I'll save my question for when Alex gets back. But then we can draw a line into the segment if you like, and dive straight into the third and final segment.
See if I can get rid of my dog then as well.
It's not a big
Can you
deal.
hear
Like
him much?
I can hear him a bit, but you can take that out really easily in post production. It's not an issue.
He's just hovering next to me.
What's his name, Mark?
His full title is Special Agent Dale Cooper, FBI.
Brilliant.
I call him Coop.
Yeah. I remember Ripley the cat.
Yes, Lieutenant Ellen Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, was her full title.
Right.
So
May she rest in peace.
Where's Coop from?
Do you not watch Twin Peaks?
No,
Oh man.
Oh, I'm missing out.
no Coop. Sync with one another.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that look all right for everyone?
Yep.
Good enough,
Yep.
yeah? Okay, so my final question, just to round out this segment, was whether, Mark, you'd be happy to say... Hang on, let me start that again, just so it's easier for editing purposes. So would you be happy to say, Mark, that there are two types of fear? So a fear that we experience when we're in real danger that we wouldn't afterwards say that we enjoyed. And then there's this other type of fear that we experience when we watch a scary movie, which is somehow enjoyable. Or would you want to say that they're both the same types of fear?
That is kind of a tricky one. It's in the moment. I think the emotional or psychological response would be different. Because if you're actually being attacked by someone, you will fear for your life, like you might die in the next minute. But when you're watching a movie, you're never in that much danger.
Okay.
Although the physical response could be the same. Like your heart will beat faster. You might get goosebumps and your breathing goes faster and you want to run away.
Okay.
But I think the actual psychological feeling of it would be very different. Okay. Because you're not in danger watching a film.
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder, like, if you're on a roller coaster, is it like you're on a roller coaster, everything's fine, but then you see a screw fly off, or something like that, and then just as you're going down, is there a difference then in those two? So you feel, I'm scared, but you're not going to die, and then like a pin flies out, you're like,
the experience changes. Yeah.
Just the experience change. I think it probably does, doesn't it? And that could be like the horror film versus the psychopath.
The fear changes to panic then.
Yeah.
I've never panicked watching a movie. But
right.
You can
Okay,
panic in real life, and then that's a different kind of feeling altogether.
Yeah.
But I've
more
also
urgent.
Yeah.
They've got a roller coaster at Alton Towers. I think it might be Nemesis, where where when you're queuing up for the roller coaster, like winding in and out the roller coaster queuing up, they play noises on the speakers that make it sound like the ride's falling to pieces.
Do they?
Yeah, before you get on it, like nuts falling down and like shaking and rattling and so that by the time you get on it, you think it's about to fall to pieces.
That reminds me of your question earlier about a director. What was it? Preying on somebody's fears.
Yeah.
That's quite sinister. Actually trying to terrify you and get inside your mind and twist you before you even get on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that would kind of. So I guess that would be the equivalent of an advertising campaign for a horror film, to kind of plant some seeds of fear in your psyche even before you got to the cinema and watched it. And I'm sure that's involved as well. I don't know in what way, but
it was like that with the you mentioned earlier, Mark, the Babadook, because that film I'd seen just like a poster. There was just this weird advertising campaign around it that I'd seen, and when people were talking about it, they'd say Babadook in that weird way. Yeah. Babadook, like that, and it just sounds scary. So then, by the time I saw the film, I was pretty much ready to jump out of the room before I'd started. So I mean, that was they had me like as soon as it opened, I was like, oh my god, what was that? It's like it's just the title. It's fine. But that was the same. It was all because of the lead up.
So you've been primed. Yeah.
By the campaign. The monster, the villain. It's not like say it's not really important what it was or what it is, but I'd already had that feeling of terror. Just the mention of the name, I guess it's a scary name as well, right? It's weird.
It is. Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, that was the one film on Mark's list that I'd already seen. I thought I'm not watching that again.
I'm not watching that again. No way.
No. All right. Is everyone happy to draw a line under that segment and go into the final one? Yep. Okay. Hang on. Let me just take.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to have my mind blown.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Don't get too excited now in case it's shit. I just thought it sounded good.
Okay. Cool. Right. So I'll dive straight in with my question. Mark, as you explained. Hang on, let me do that again. Sorry, I go from a script, Mark. I'm not as free flow as Alex and Carlo. I apologise.
No, I have script.
Yeah. Okay. Alex has got script. Okay. Well. Okay. So, Mark, as you explained, the original question seems to suggest that being scared is somehow a bad thing, and so you started your opinion by defending the emotions, arguing that they are neither good nor bad, but serve simply as motivators. When I am being chased by an axe-wielding maniac, an all too common occurrence, it is fear, an emotion, that motivates me to escape. But, you said, when it comes to watching a scary movie, I am in no real danger, and so I get to feel the rush of fear for free. The only real danger is that I might soil my undies.
Be that as it may, as far as paradoxes are concerned, I think you may have jumped out of the frying pan and straight into the fire. For if I know that I am in no real danger, then how can I feel any fear whatsoever? Hannibal Lecter, Pennywise the Clown, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, they are all fictional characters. None of them exist, yet I fear them anyway. What is it that I am afraid of? Surely it isn't just the prospect of soiling my undies. What do you think?
Well, I mean, soiling your undies is pretty bad. But
Especially in company, yeah.
it is an interesting question. As I mentioned in the answer that I wrote, you can still be scared of these things, even though you know it's not real. I put that down to good filmmaking, saying the filmmaker can scare you, despite showing you things that don't exist.
Yeah.
I've thought about a couple of answers to this before. I don't know if I should...
Okay, we've lost
Well, we
Alex,
lost Alex.
again, I'm afraid. Yeah. Well, at least we got my question recorded, so that's.
Yeah.
Oh, but my email address has suddenly reappeared. Oh, but I don't think.
Not to me, it hasn't.
Has it not? Okay, that's good. I think that's probably just on my screen. Yeah, we had a bit of a game last time, Mark, because my email address appeared and the recording session went on YouTube, and Carl had to get creative with the editing to try and remove the email address. Yeah, I didn't want to get spammed.
Had to do a picture-in-picture effect on iMovie. So it was actually my wife who worked it out in the end. She did most of it, actually, because I was just getting so frustrated with it. I think she just
worked
thought
great.
For household harmony, she just thought, I'll just take care of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, I apologise. I apologise for that, but I mean, it's my Gmail account. It's a high value account as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't want that to get spammed.
Yeah.
oh, you kind of keep it pure.
Yeah, like I think like I highly value my like the I let the integrity of my Hotmail account go a long time ago, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But Gmail, I try and keep as pure as possible. Yeah.
I do that too. My Gmail's clean and pure. Friends and family only. But my Yahoo is full of all the shite. I think I've had it since like 1997.
I've got an iCloud account actually that I've never used. I think that if my Gmail ever gets corrupted with spam, I'll transition onto the iCloud account that I still haven't used. But that hasn't happened yet, so that's good. That's good.
Just keep that one nice and clean.
Yeah, exactly. Alex we've only ever had one dropout before. This is a new record. One dropout in a recording session. So this is new. Yeah, it was good.
Must be ghosts in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Alex saying she thinks it's an aeroplane flying over a house,
Right.
which is affecting the Wi-Fi, which sounds like a
Kills the Wi-Fi.
plot of a movie, doesn't it?
Yeah. A bad movie.
Yeah.
You're right, Alex.
Another
She gone again?
aeroplane. That's another aeroplane straight over.
Yeah. Oh God.
Must be in a flight path or something of that.
Do you think this is perhaps something to do with the fact that there's more internet traffic in the evenings? Because the past few times we've done a recording, it's been like early afternoone. I don't know whether
Maybe.
that's something to do with it.
I mean, like Netflix and the like.
Everyone's on Netflix, yeah, so slowing down internet speeds. Don't know.
I've tried playing Cards Against Humanity online a few times, and it always crashes at 9 o'clock on Friday night.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, you can play as long as you want all day and all weekends, but it's always 9 o'clock on Friday. Suddenly the servers go down because everybody's logging in.
Right, yeah.
They'll say, see you on Friday at 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that work?
Well, as long as it's not Friday at 9, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really good fun. There's a site called All Bad Cards. Me and my brothers and a few friends will use. That's really good. It's good fun.
Oh, cool. Oh, it's like so it's not like you all have a set of cards or something. I was going to ask how did you sort out the game?
Oh no, it's all online, like the website.
Oh, it's all
pushes you out
online.
cards, and then you play them on a virtual table together.
Oh, cool.
You can even create your own custom cards and everything. Not that
Oh, brilliant. That sounds good.
my voice is going. I've been on the phone all day at work.
Oh, okay. That's progress, I think.
Actually, while we're waiting for Alex, I might go and feed the dog, and I'll shut him up for a minute.
Yeah,
Back in a sec.
So it's
Sorry.
2, 3, 4, 5. That look good for everyone? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Mark, I just asked you about the paradox of fiction.
You did.
Yeah. What do you think?
I've thought about a couple of answers to this before.
Yeah.
I've got a weak one and a better one and a good one. So, well, the weak one, the first thing that occurred to me was that things like zombies in particular, just because I recently watched White Zombie. I think it's the first zombie movie, or the first one to use zombie in the title.
Okay.
They're not entirely fictional in that film.
Okay.
It's about like a sugar plantation owner who basically kidnaps locals from the village and hypnotizes them, strips them of their autonomy and their self, and then puts them to work as mindless zombie slaves.
Okay.
And that's technically, they are zombies.
Yeah.
So if you watch modern kind of the brain munching, eye popping zombies, they're just an exaggeration of that, but they are slightly rooted somewhere in reality. So they're kind of real.
Yeah.
But that's not really the best argument. I think there's a lot you could say. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I even think it's weak, but I thought it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just still push the idea that despite their being based loosely on reality, they are still ultimately fictional. Even though perhaps there are some zombies, some zombie-like cases somewhere, the ones that we're looking at on the screen are themselves fictional, and they're the ones that are meant to be scaring us at that point. So I'd say that the paradox stands in that case.
Then what about a situation like, I don't know if you've seen Candyman?
I haven't, unfortunately.
Or are you familiar with the kind of myth where if you say the name Candyman in a mirror 5 times, he
Like
appears?
Beetlejuice.
And
Yeah, I've seen Beetlejuice.
in that film, the Candyman kind of toys with the lead character,
Okay.
Helen, I think her name was. And at some point, he kind of places her at a murder scene that he's committed, but she's completely blacked out. She has no idea how she got there. And she wakes up covered in blood with a knife in her hand and a dead body. And she gets arrested. And she's trying to tell the police, oh, it wasn't me, it was the Candyman. But they have all this evidence that she did it.
Yeah.
And there's a point where, I've seen it in a few other films as well, where the character starts to doubt their own mind.
Okay.
Because she's saying, oh, the Candyman did it. But everyone knows the Candyman's not real. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And in that case, the only other alternative is that she did it.
Yeah.
And that means that she's so far out of her mind, she could actually butcher this person and not even know she did it.
Yeah.
And isn't that scary? If the monster isn't real, then that means the monster is you.
See, I like that. So you get out of the paradox by saying, well, everything's fiction, and so is nothing's fiction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You just say, there is no paradox. What's scary is the scary events. It doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't matter that zombies don't exist. Brains could be eaten. That's the scary thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was something to do with so despite the fact that the zombies, for instance, are fictional and don't exist, we ourselves are not fictional and do exist, and we should be scared of. What was it, Mark? That we should be scared almost of our own inner monster.
If zombie-like things are happening around you, and they don't exist, then that means you're losing your mind, and that's scary.
Okay.
Because this can't be real, and yet I see it before me.
Okay, so what's scary is the idea that you could lose your grip on reality. Maybe is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the fictional characters, despite the fact that they don't exist, they're kind of like a gateway for you to start doubting your own grasp on things, and that's what's really scary.
Yeah, in some cases at least.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of buy into that one a little bit more. Yeah.
Right.
Especially Carl's interpretation. Like I thought a good way out of the paradox would be to say that that we know zombies. We know zombies that we see on a screen in much the same way that we know people in our everyday lives. We see and hear them, So perhaps there's no real difference in kind when it comes to reality when you're considering zombies or people you see at Tesco or something like that. So I suppose when we talk about a zombie not being real, what
what do we mean? Do we mean that we can't physically go up and like grab it and touch it? We can't smell it, or is that? I mean, that's what we mean, isn't it? When we say that someone we see in a film isn't real. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, if they don't exist on this planet, in the real world where we all live, and you know that corpses can't actually rise up from the ground, that's not a real thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, but we should nonetheless be scared of them because they could make us see how we could lose our minds. Is that it? I'm still unclear. I'm still unclear on this way out of the paradox.
What about, like, Jimmy, you saying, oh, it's not scary because we know zombies aren't real. But can you not argue that they are real to the character in the film or the book or whatever? So it is a real fear because you are fearful for the character because in their world, what they are facing is a true and legitimate fear. Because the character is as fake as the fear. Yeah, so it's you're empathizing.
It's like an empathy.
So they're not, zombies aren't real, but being eaten by a zombie is a real fear for the character in the film.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you empathize with the character, then being eaten by a zombie is a real fear.
Yeah. But I suppose you could still... Yeah, no, I mean, that definitely seems like a potential way out, but you may be able to argue that the character with whom you're meant to be empathizing is also just as fictional as the zombies. So you shouldn't be afraid of the zombies, but you also shouldn't feel sympathy or pity for the zombie's victim. They're both fictional. The whole universe is fictional.
But the fear isn't fictional.
But the fear you feel in that case isn't fear for yourself. It's not your own fear that you feel.
Yeah.
Like you're not personally scared. If you feel for somebody else or you feel sorry for them and you empathize with them, it's not the same as you being scared yourself. But you can understand their fear.
And it doesn't matter if they're real or not, right? Because your empathy is real and their fear is real in their fictional universe. Like
as it's written.
Yeah. They're fictional, the zombie's fictional, but seeing as how they're existing in the same plane of existence,
then it's real.
It's real there. And so the fear is real, even though the actor or the actress didn't feel the fear.
Well,
But the character did, and so it's okay to empathise with it, right?
And so when we empathise with it, that's when fear enters the picture for us. You know, we end up feeling the fictional character's fear, or some aspect of it. Is that the idea?
If the film's well done, then you should feel the fear that the character is feeling.
I think you could certainly say it's okay to be scared at that point, right? When you can, through empathy, you can see a scary situation. It's okay to feel scared by it. But I don't know if you shouldn't. It's not like you ought to be scared by it, but you're maybe let off the hook, because rather than saying, you shouldn't be scared of this because it's fictional. It's like, no, you should be scared of it because you're empathizing. Yeah, it's perfect. It's not fictional in the fictional universe.
Yeah, you can say, I know zombies aren't real in my universe, but in the universe that I am currently consuming, they are real. Yeah. So it's a legitimate reason to be scared because I'm consuming, or I'm looking at
consuming a universe. It's just strange things. Alex Impey, consumer of universe.
So what I worry about there, Alex, is if you're say if you're engaged in this or consuming this fictional universe, as you like to say, when the zombies come on screen, why don't you run out of the cinema?
Because maybe I do. I don't know.
Maybe you do. Yeah, maybe you do.
I don't know.
But it seems hard to be able to consume so much of this fictional universe that you're going to feel the fear required for enjoyment, but not so much that you end up soiling your undies and running out of the cinema and phoning the police or whatever, There's still the awareness that what you're watching will not hurt you. I'm not saying it's not legitimate fear as in, I could legitimately be eaten by a zombie in my plane of existence. It's more like I've chosen to sit down and watch a film, and the idea of the film is that most of the time is you're placed in the mindset of the protagonist, and if the protagonist is facing a fear and I've put myself in that mindset, then I'm going to
hopefully to some degree experience that fear. Doesn't mean that like it'll actually happen to me in this life that I'm living, but it's still, the point of the film is to be reeled in, otherwise it would be a bit naff, wouldn't it?
But I still so the idea is that if they're fictional, then you don't believe that they exist. And it just seems odd to say that you can be afraid of something that you don't believe exists. That's kind of the root of the paradox here. And I think, I think it looks like we might be heading towards a loophole. I just don't know whether we've zeroed in on it.
It does exist, doesn't it? In your, like, you know when they say like, what exists in your mind is real to you. Like, there's no way of knowing. Like, you could look at, like, this lamp in front of me, for example. Like, I can see it. Yeah. I feel like I'm interacting with it. I feel like I'm looking at it. I feel like I can turn it on and off. So I feel like I can do those things. So to me, it's real. But it might not be. Like, this could all be a simulation. Like, who knows?
Yeah,
but
that's
it feels
right.
real.
That's right.
So if something feels real in your mind, then it is real by that logic. So if you feel a fear and it feels real, then it is a real fear. Even if
but then you do have this issue where you're going to struggle to distinguish between the pseudo fear of the horror movie where you don't actually act on it, you don't get out of your seat, and the real fear of, you know, being chased by an actual serial killer who's out for you.
Do you not, maybe that there's like, I don't know if there's like a sort of almost conditioning that we've had watching a horror movie. Like, if you showed a 3-year-old a horrific horror film, like there were zombies coming at them, and they've never seen a TV before, and they don't understand the concept of watching a film, and they see zombies running towards them, I wouldn't expect that 3-year-old to sit there and be like, oh, what a great film, like this is absolutely exhilarating. That 3-year-old would probably run away. They would probably think, oh my word, there's weird creatures coming towards me. I don't think they're coming for a hug, so I'm going to run away. But if you're in a cinema and you're surrounded by people that are like, oh, I love horror movies, and you know deep down you're a big old puss, and then some zombies come running towards you, and in your body's like, oh my word, why aren't we running? And you're like, oh, it's because no one else is running, because it's not the done thing to do, and I've come here to enjoy this film, then you're not going to run. But there's times when you're watching a film, like when I was watching The Lighthouse, I was literally hiding behind Angus's back because I was like so scared and I wanted to run away, but it's just not the done thing to do, is it? So I think that...
Yeah, it's not cool.
Yeah. So I think it's, maybe that's a part of it where maybe you would run away, but you know, because someone has basically told you, you don't need to run away because it's just a film.
You shouldn't do it, you look uncool.
People would call you names. Yeah, people would call you names if you did.
So Mark, you suggested that you had 3 answers to the paradox. Was there one more then?
There was one more, which I don't know if this might blow your minds. Are you sitting comfortably?
I'm ready. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
I have 2 examples to back this up, so bear with me.
Okay.
The fact that these monsters and Draculas and Frankensteins don't exist means they're not bound by the rules of existence.
Okay.
So, we've lost Alex already.
I'm gone and running.
I think Alex might have jumped the gun a little bit. I feel that wasn't the punchline.
No, I'm already scared.
Okay.
Think about a serial killer, for instance, in the real world, an actual human man who kills specifically armchair philosophers for fun. He hits them.
Okay.
And especially people whose names start with a J.
Oh, God.
Right. Now, if that guy's in your house, James, or even in your town or your county, you would do well to be scared. Because you're exactly the kind of person he wants to slaughter.
Yeah.
But let's say he's already been caught and arrested for his crimes, and he's been locked up in the most secure facility you can imagine, 10,000 miles away.
Yeah.
He's under surveillance 24/7. Yeah. He will never be allowed out as long as he lives, right?
Yeah.
Now he's not scary to you because there's nothing he can do. He doesn't even know who you are. They don't let him listen to podcasts in prison.
Okay.
So he has no idea you even exist. So now you're not scared, right? Yeah. Because he's a real man, locked in a cell, very far away.
Yeah.
Then consider Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Who doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Even in the world of the film, he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That man was murdered years before this film takes place. So Fred Krueger doesn't exist anymore. He's dead.
Yeah.
And yet when the children of the town dream about him, he appears in their dreams. And because he has all these wondrous powers, he's not bound by the laws of space and time. He can create entire dreamscapes to torture and torment these kids and then slaughter them from inside their own mind.
Yeah.
And also, even when he slashes them in a dream, their body rips open in the real world.
Yeah.
Which, I put it to you, a real killer could not do. A real person can't get inside your mind and destroy you from the inside out.
That's right, yeah.
And if Fred Krueger was a real man, he would have to find your house, like look you up in the address book, get a taxi to your address, find a way in without being detected, creep around until you go to bed, and then stab you in your sleep.
Yeah.
And avoid detection by the police.
Yeah.
Which a real killer would have to do. But the fact that he doesn't exist means he can just show up as soon as you fall asleep. He'll appear in your dreams and rip your mind out.
Right.
Isn't that scary?
So you're saying fictional entities are not only is it right to be scared of them, but they're scarier than real dangers.
Oh yeah.
Because
especially
they're
a
not
far
bound.
away danger.
because
they
it's
don't
not...
obey any laws of physics, even metaphysics or even logic.
So once they've kind of occupied your psyche, you're stuck with them forever. They can't be arrested, but the police can't take them away. They're in your mind. Okay.
Oh my god.
So
like I said earlier about the Ju-on film, you can't go to the
Yeah.
police, you can't go to a doctor, you can't hide under the covers in your own bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, couldn't you go to could you not go to a psychiatrist and they could try and or an exorcist?
It's like you say with that copy of Wreck. I could destroy that copy of Wreck. Still there.
Yeah.
Still
It's in
watching.
your head.
Yeah, I've seen
But
it.
then, to take the Nightmare on Elm Street example, I mean the kids. So it didn't end well for them, but they put up a resistance.
Understatement. Yeah.
Spoiler
I mean,
alert, yeah.
For 10 minutes or so there, like they were putting up a good fight. So I'd have thought that at least I would, if I bought into this line of thinking, then I would perhaps also buy into the fact that there would be some lines of defense that I could employ in a similar way that I would ring the police in reality if there was a real serial killer after me, you know. Like often in these films, the goodies have some. It's not completely hopeless. They have some means to defend themselves or to fight back, and sometimes it goes wrong. But I guess that I'd want to think that I would be able to defend myself in some way. Maybe I'd have to appeal to some kind of mystical artifact or something, find some shaman, or I don't know. I guess I'd still want to think that I could defend myself. Wouldn't you agree that you could do that?
You could want to think so, but what are you going to do against a metaphysical entity?
Yeah.
Hide under the bed?
Yeah, but so do you think that they don't exist in space and time, so they can't hurt me in space and time? The thing with Freddy Krueger is that he somehow managed to transcend that barrier in the film. He died many years before, and he existed seemingly only in the children's dreams, but he managed to hurt them in real life. That was the scary thing. So I suppose that I would say that that would be the difference. Like any idea I have of any scary monster or ghoul or villain, no matter how scary in my head, they can't hurt me in space and time. They can't make me bleed.
Oh, so you think?
Yeah,
But they can hurt you in your head.
Yeah. But
fear,
it wasn't. But it wasn't. But when it came to Freddy Krueger, it wasn't. We weren't worrying that he was going to psychologically harm the kids. We were worrying that he was going to turn them into buckets of blood. You know, that was the.
Yeah, but the fear still. It's still okay to be scared of him.
Yeah.
Because of this very reason that you can't know that he's Freddy Krueger. It doesn't matter if you lock him up, you know, or even Dracula. It doesn't matter that you lock him up. You know, he could still come for you. And so there's a way in that they're somehow intangible. Do you know what I mean?
But when you say "come for me," what do you mean? Like, so we're talking about a fictional character here.
Fictional
so if you
character.
say, yeah,
Which
so if you,
I mean, let's instead of saying fictional, let's talk about a potential character.
Okay.
Like we don't know whether they exist or not. They're potentially real. Like Freddy Krueger is a potential character in our universe, right?
Yeah. In our fictional universe, or
No,
in
no,
our
no.
real universe.
No, in the real universe.
Okay,
Let's just say that Freddy Krueger potentially, because we haven't disproved him, so he's a potential character, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying you've got to be scared then.
But I'd still say that if these characters exist beyond space and time, then we can't ascribe any properties to them whatsoever. You know, so Freddy Krueger had knives for fingernails or whatever. If he exists beyond space and time, he can't have that property, and so I can't be scared of it.
Well, why not?
Because it's a spatio-temporal property to have knives for fingers.
Not in the dreamscape. I mean, I think Freddy Krueger is a confusing example. Purely
We're on
because
so many levels.
He could attack your dreams. So his knives really were neither here nor there. It doesn't matter if he could take any form, really.
Yeah.
There's another example actually came to mind from Ju-on again. Keep talking about this film because I love it so much.
Yeah.
Where I think one of the characters, it might happen more than once even, but one in particular witnesses their own death in the future, but they don't know that it's their death they're seeing until the day they die, and they realize like where they are and the sound this makes, and they see the time on the clock, and they realize, oh, I saw this 3 weeks ago, and that realization is horrifying. That they've actually been manipulated through space and time by the spirit.
Okay. I just
I
don't
think in that case they're being haunted by some noise, like they hear a banging noise every night at 3:20 a.m. They just hear dum, dum, dum. And then weeks later the guy gets hanged, and as his body swings it hits the wall at 3:20 and his feet hit the wall going dum, dum.
God.
And it's only at that very moment he realizes this is the sound that was haunting me. It's his own death.
Okay.
And that's terrifying because he saw his own death in the future and didn't even know it until it's too late.
So I agree with you. It is terrifying, but I have to buy into a certain amount of that imaginary universe before it becomes terrifying. The second I start to withdraw myself from that imaginary universe and kind of like stop suspending belief, you know, and kind of reinstate reality as I leave the movie theater or whatever, I think it ceases to be scary. Although you might have beaten me there because I have kind of conceded that you can be scared in the cinema.
That was just scary, just as a description.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark didn't even need a video camera then. I've just nearly
And I
sold
didn't
my
do it justice.
britches.
It's much better in the film.
Yeah, I was genuinely scared by it.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah,
it's
so,
the
I mean-
inevitability of it too. Like this character, Kayako, the spirit, can
Yeah.
just do anything. If she wants you dead, you're dead.
Yeah.
And she can change through space and time as well and get you anywhere, anytime.
But
So
I
I
think
don't
the crucial thing though is that the fear there is not the fear of the ghost. Like, you know, you're describing it. I'm not scared of the ghost, but I'm scared of death, right?
Yeah.
And I'm scared. Particularly, would be scared of knowing that I'd foreseen my death. That just seems horrifying in some way.
Yeah.
You know, that's the fear, right? That's what we're scared of there.
Although
It's
in
not necessarily the baddie, but
in
the
Big
effect the baddie
Fish,
has.
in Big Fish, that liberates the main character. He sees his death in like an old lady's eyes when he's a child, and he becomes like he lives his life to the full because he knows that he doesn't fear death up until the point of his death. So it kind of liberates him. Although I mean,
I can see that.
yeah, I guess that's kind of with this paradox. I'd never want to dispute the fact that we're genuinely afraid. I think that we are scared when it comes to scary movies. The paradox is the fact that we also seem to hold the belief that these characters don't exist. That seems to be where the paradox lies. But it also seems to assume that we can only fear something if we believe it exists, and that's probably the faulty premise there. I think that that's probably too strict a requirement on fear. Like we can imagine all sorts of scary hypotheticals. Anyone with anxiety or intrusive thoughts kind of would experience fear, despite the fact that what they're thinking about hasn't happened and may never happen. You know.
But is that fear that if there's even the smallest possibility, if you believe there's even this like minutest possibility, if you believe the probability is not completely zero, then there's always something to be scared of. I think it's why thrillers in particular and like ghost horror films I think are really really scary, because you can say in your head, like, I don't think ghosts are real, but it can't really. I don't know if it's something you can fully prove. Like, you can be like, oh, yeah, if someone could give you a ghost story, you can be like, oh, this can be explained by this or this or this. But there's always, like, this tiniest possibility that it could be explained by the fact that there is actually a ghost. And, like you said, Mark, that it's not bound by the same laws as we are.
Yeah. So are you saying that,
really
like,
scary.
a requirement on good horror is that there's always that chance? There's always that chance that it could happen, that it's believable.
Yeah, it's at least a little bit believable. Like, just even if it's the tiniest amount, that's enough for it to be like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's like something else I'd thought of before, where if you're any kind of at least semi-responsible epistemologist, you would know that your beliefs aren't true just because you believe them, right?
Yeah.
So any belief that you hold might be false.
Yeah.
So if you believe zombies don't exist, you can believe they don't exist, but you know that they might.
Yeah, and that's scary. That's really
and that's
scary.
where the fear lives.
Yeah.
And that might. Okay.
I think that's right. Like, there's a possibility. There's always a possibility. I mean, that any one of these monsters could be real, or something like them. You know, because purely by the fact that we've imagined them, they're sort of possible, right? They're physically possible in some way, at least.
And the fact that the American government has contingency plans for zombies and stuff like that doesn't.
It's just sensible policies for us in the United States.
Yeah.
Have you seen that meme where it's like? Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say there's a meme it says the possibility of a bear surprise attacking you is very low, but it's never zero. And then there's like a picture of a man like that, and there's like a bear behind him.
Yeah. Well, it's Jeff Lynne, isn't it? The chances of anything coming from Mars were 1,000,000 to 1, but still they come.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that.
Lovely.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well. Unless anyone else has anything burning to say, I mean, I think that was a good final segment, wasn't it? I mean, I think I've lost kind of track of how long we've been going, but I think we've got plenty of material.
1 hour and 33 minutes I have on my video recording clock, although quite a lot of that was
was
faffing
looking for Alex.
Yeah, sorry.
Finding Alex.
I've just got some fun facts.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily for the podcast, but I thought I'd look up weird stuff that happens on the set of horror films, because I find that stuff really interesting, because it's like, the horror films are scary, and then you've got this added layer on top where like you were saying, the suspension of disbelief. Oh, guess what, stuff actually happened. So in The Omen, I haven't watched literally any of these films, but The Omen, there was a car crash. A set designer and his girlfriend died in the car crash. One day the dogs on set just went crazy and started attacking everyone. There was another car crash where people on set got injured. The Poltergeist,
James Cameron directing
Joe Beth
this film?
Williams.
Okay.
Poltergeist is a good one. That's a very haunted movie.
What film was that? Sorry, Alex, I missed it.
That was The Omen.
Oh, okay. Was that the one you were saying was a good one, Mark?
No, I was about to say, have you seen, or is Poltergeist on the list? Just as you said. Poltergeist.
Oh,
That's a very haunted film.
Yeah. I've just got a few here because it was quite a lot, so I only wrote a couple. But Beth Williams, she was a cast member, said when she returned home from set, every time she came home, she'd find photos in her home bent or crooked. They wanted to, like, the set members were like, this place is, I'm just getting the bad vibes, bad juju from this. They wanted to purify the set. They said there was a weird energy. Apparently there was a prop clown that strangled someone, but it got jammed, and it started actually like strangling the cast members. So they had. I think they're
just buying into their own narrative.
This is what
in a way.
also
It's humidity. I can explain all of those with humidity.
Yeah, I think it would be such a good PR like strategy, wouldn't it? To be like, I'm on a horror film and look at all this horrible stuff that happened. People are like, oh my god, it's like it's real. Yeah. The Exorcist, there was quite a lot on that. Where there was a mysterious fire that burnt down every room in the set except for the room of the girl who got possessed. But I couldn't find any citation on that, so who knows if that actually happened. Yeah.
I mean, this
there must have been a horror film somewhere where it was about the making of a horror film. Surely that has to have been.
Oh yeah, there's loads.
Yeah, that seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Scream 3.
Yeah.
Scream 3.
Classic 3.
But yeah, that was just. I thought that was really.
Isn't the Blair Witch Project something about that? Don't they set out into the woods with the idea of making a scary film, and then it all gets really scary really quickly?
Yeah.
I thought. Was that
Or
actually?
Is that right? Were they making a film or?
I thought it was completely scripted from the beginning. Was it not?
Well,
No, they set out to make a
it is.
documentary about the Blair Witch.
Yeah,
But then the
that's
film
right.
that we watch as the audience is them just getting lost in the woods. And
That's
found by
right.
the
They're
Blair Witch.
making a
Yeah.
documentary. Yeah. So they're not trying to make anything scary. They're trying to make something informative.
Yeah.
And
But have you
then
seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare? I think it was the 6th Nightmare on Elm Street.
No.
It's kind of about all the actual cast from the first film and the director and the actor that plays Fred Krueger. They start having nightmares about Freddy, and he comes out in the real world,
Oh god.
and he's actually stalking the actors. That's an amazing film because the series went downhill. All the sequels are always a rip-off.
Yeah.
But that was the first one directed by Wes Craven again, and he
Number
wanted to make
6
Freddy
was that.
scary.
Okay. Yeah.
So you should all watch Wes Craven's New
That's
Nightmare.
good. Yeah. So you would suggest going from the original and then jumping straight to New Nightmare and just missing out all the sequels.
Yeah, because I think they even say in that film that all the sequels were so shit that Freddy lost his power and he couldn't hurt anyone anymore. So he starts haunting the crew, saying like, "Make another film, make me scary again."
Yeah.
And didn't they do a crossover with Jason?
Oh yeah,
Did they do those?
Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason. I mean, that seems
That's
like
good fun, but it's silly. You know, it's ridiculous.
A bit like Alien versus Predator, I guess. I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
That was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freddy one wasn't that bad, but it's just silly fun. You know.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I haven't seen which of the Jason films are they Halloween? Is that? Are they
No,
the
Friday the
Halloween films?
13th.
Oh, the
Halloween was
13th.
Michael Myers with the Shatner
Okay.
mask.
I get mixed up. I get mixed up.
Friday the 13th is Jason with a hockey mask.
Okay. Okay. There you go. There you go. I'll have to bear this in mind.
Jason is supernatural, right?
Is he?
He is. Yes.
And
Is he already dead?
My-
Jason was already dead. Is that
Yeah, he died as like a 10-year-old boy or something.
Yeah,
drowned.
okay.
But Michael Myers, at least originally, was not superhuman, right? He's just a nutcase.
Yeah, he was just another. He stabbed his sister and was locked up and then escaped.
That's right. But in
He's
late,
not a ghost or a monster.
I haven't seen any of the sequels. He becomes
Yeah, later on they
superpowered.
brought in some kind of satanic cult and said he was the fulfillment of the prophecy and all this kind of shit.
Right.
But originally it was just a killer.
And Michael Myers isn't Leatherface. Is Leatherface someone different again?
No, Leatherface was Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
All
based
right,
on Ed Gein, which is a true story. So that's kind of a
Right.
true story.
Okay. See, I'm not well versed in these. I need to dive into this a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah.
We should have you on every week just to talk about different films.
well, Carl mentioned just the other day that we should do a Armchair Opinions film review.
We should do that at the movies special. We could do.
Yeah.
Could just
Films
pepper,
with some
pepper them through the year.
Films with some philosophical content. Hopefully, I mean, you can get that in any film, I guess, bad or good. You can dig up philosophical content anywhere. You know, I mean, that's what we've been doing for a while now, I guess. All right, Alex, do you want to do the outro?
I'll do the outro.
Are you happy to do that?
Yes.
Oh, did you did you ask Theo about scary films today, Carl?
I did. He's preparing an answer.
Oh,
And
great.
He had his swimming lesson,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, do you want to just give us a sound bite?" Then he was like, "Yeah, I've just got this thing I'm doing," and it turns out he's been looking up videos on YouTube of Lego Transformers made of Lego. So that was obviously a high priority. So I thought he was actually doing something. I was like, "All right, okay." So I was like, "Okay, I'll catch him tomorrow."
Oh, no, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah. Once he's done with the Lego, don't disturb him until
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his priorities right. All right, Alex, what are you saying then? Let's
We're
get
not
this
doing
done.
that yes or no thing this week, are we?
No, I don't think so, because that was a
Can't
bit of
squeeze
a
that in.
disaster last time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's it for this episode of Armchair Opinions. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Mark, for joining us. Be sure to subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars only, and find us on our website armchairopinions.org, where you can send in questions for the Armchair Philosophers. Join us next time when we will be inspecting an opinion about whether it matters if aliens exist. Bye for now.
Bye. Fantastic. All right, that's great.
Did I say inspecting right? Because it felt like I didn't, but I think I did.
No, I think you got it right that time.
Okay,
you didn't
cool.
say inspuncting or whatever you said last
Unspuncting.
time.
Although at the beginning you did say qualified instead of qualified.
Did I?
But that was like 2 hours ago.
God.
It'd just be funny.
Should I do
that's
another?
fine.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
No, I'd
definitely
keep it in.
not. Definitely
Keep
not.
it in.
It's good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Qualified.
I think you said qualified, yeah.
All right, good stuff. Well, thank you ever so much, Mark, for joining us.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was good fun.
Yeah,
Oh, it's been good to see you again, Mark. Must have been what?
Yeah, you too.
13
I think, is it
years?
13 years? Yeah, it's 2007.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
starting?
mental.
Dang.
Yeah.
Madness.
Have you
wow,
written any
so-
more Armchair Opinions, Mark?
No, I picked one off the list
Yeah,
and
you
made
did,
some
like-
notes on it, but never finished
Okay,
it.
cool. Well, I mean, once you've got
same.
that, once
Well.
you've got that done, you can get back on the
it
podcast.
again.
You know, yeah, that'd be good.
I enjoyed the horror topic more though. This is my
this is
wheelhouse,
good.
as they say.
Yeah, this is good fun. We're still waiting on Carl. Carl's writing an opinion about whether it's just the opinion's just Sambuca versus tequila. That was the whole question.
That was the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scope in there.
I'm doing a lot of research.
No, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
lots- yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would be a good one to talk about on the podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Which we'll get really drunk and.
Yeah,
Let's do a sample. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. All right, well, I'll stop this recording now, and then
Cool, I'll do.